What have I done? Everything's a mess. On this episode of Tyler Please Backyard Farmer, I'm getting my garden ready for winter. And I made a list of my end of season garden chores, a list that I'm definitely not going to complete today, but hopefully over the next week. Pick any of the remaining vegetables that are going to die with the first frost, clear any dead plants or things that are done for the season, and compost all of those. Weed thoroughly, all of the weeding that I maybe neglected to do this year. Make sure I get them out now. Adding a layer of mulch to all of my rows and around my raised beds. And I don't really have any pruning to do in my particular garden, but maybe that's something that you need to be doing end of season. Collecting all my garden tools, cleaning them and storing them for the winter. Planting more cover crop. So I have some beds that already have some cover crop on them, but there's some others that I will be planting out there. Adding organic material to any of my rows and beds, topping off with some compost so that I can sit and mature over winter. Draining all of the hoses and storing those away so they don't get ruined over winter. And then putting out row cover for some of my more sensitive plants that can take a light freeze but won't do well when it gets below 30, 28 degrees Fahrenheit. I do not know what that is in Celsius. So those are my end of season garden chores that I'll be doing that maybe you should be considering if you've got a garden. So let me get to them. Now, most of the tasks that I'm doing today, I typically would have done a month ago before our first frost, but as I'm picking peppers right now, we've yet to have a real frost, which is abnormal this late in November. Just the other day I was picking strawberries. Shouldn't be doing that, so unseasonably warm right now. And while I don't love what that means for the climate, it is nice to have more time because my garden has definitely gotten away from me this year. From traveling back and forth to DC for my job all this summer, helping Michelle while she was pregnant, and then the birth of our daughter. I've had some decent excuses for not being able to tend to my garden as much as I would like. And just as we're meant to have seasons in Kentucky, I think we're meant to have distinct seasons in our life throughout the year. Times when we're really busy, times when we slow down, which I think we have definitely lost in modern society. A society that is, working at your job around the year. I think for most of man's existence on this planet, we haven't had that. We've had long stretches where you enjoy the harvest, bundle up for winter, and just be with friends, family, loved ones, relax, recharge, and that way you're ready for spring, which is what I'm trying to do in my garden. Do stuff now so I have less things to do in the spring. It's pretty much done. After we have a frost in the next few weeks, I'll be planting this row in garlic. Garlic that I saved from this year's harvest. Saved all the best, biggest bulbs to be my seed garlic for next year. And I've been practicing or trying to practice no-till gardening and disturbing the soil as little as possible. And I went back and forth if I should just chop off these pepper plants at the roots or pull them all the way out, which is what I've decided to do. If you have any experience of planting garden in a no-dig bed where you've let the roots of a plant like a pepper, maybe a tomato, just sit there, let me know. I was worried since, garlic grows underground, it's a bulb. I wanted to give it as much space as possible to expand out to have some nice big beautiful garlic when I harvest it next June. I think it was a good decision. No real way to test it. I'm not doing a A/B test here, but maybe you know. Picking tomatoes is totally normal in November. One of the things that I have been thinking about is how fortunate Michelle and I have been for our paternity and maternity leave that we get from our jobs. Michelle is taking almost 6 months. I am going to be not full-time for about 6 months, but I'm slowly phasing back in, so I'm working a little bit each week. But most people in the United States do not get that. Maybe a few weeks for the mother is probably the average, and I don't know what it is for the father. Like a few days could be nothing. So very, very fortunate for the time we have with our daughter, to get to bond with her, figure out how to be parents. But I've also enjoyed the time away from work. And with the idea of seasonality of life, I don't think it's good to do the same thing day in and day out, week after week. We're not designed for that. I think we crave novelty, new experiences, time to relax, which again, modern life is not designed for. Capitalism is not designed for that. It's designed for 9 to 5, maybe 9 to 5 and a side gig, to make sure that you have enough money, maybe just to get by for the basics, or that you have more than enough money for the basics, but so that you can buy all the stuff that society and advertisements say that you need. I know this was a video about winter and end of season chores, but this is the stuff that's top of mind. So as I'm doing these things, just wanted to share them with you. Maybe it resonates. I don't know. Need squash? Oh, that's a lot of peppers. Choppy chop, 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 choppy chop, compost the peppers. Oh, the squash forests. Out of control. And itchy. It's too warm for a long sleep. Look how curly and wonky this one turned out. This right here is a Tromboncino squash. This is the first year that I've grown these, but it's definitely not gonna be the last. I'm probably gonna grow these every year that I have a garden. What is cool about them is that when they're green like this, they taste like a zucchini. I think they taste a little bit better than a zucchini, but if you let them sit and cure, they turn into like a butternut squash. Super long storing winter squash. So these things are absolutely awesome. Going to be growing them again. Beep, 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 beep. Do, 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 do. He-Man! Grunt, grunt, grunt. Day 2 of getting my garden ready for winter and generally just cleaning up my yard. If you look around my property, there's a lot of projects that are started but not finished. And I have recognized in myself that I sometimes have the problem of completing projects, especially when they're no longer challenging or interesting, when I no longer have to figure out the steps to get them done. And this happens both at home and at my day job, which is not always great at the day job. But I feel I get about 80% of the way done, and then when I can see all of the steps remaining to completion, when I kind of know what I have to do and there's no more figuring out, I don't want to do it anymore. And that way of thinking kind of makes a lot of sense to me now, because I was recently diagnosed with ADHD, which I was actually surprised by. Because I wasn't a kid growing up that struggled in school. Like, I feel that that's what you tend to think about when you think about ADHD, is having trouble concentrating in school, which I definitely daydreamed a lot. I still do. If something isn't interesting me, that I don't find curious or challenging, I quickly zone out. I think in school I did well enough because I was learning stuff, so that was interesting. I was lucky enough to be pretty consistently challenged in school. If I wasn't challenged, maybe I was difficult from time to time, but didn't really get in trouble because I was so smart. Not to toot my own horn or sound arrogant, but I mean, it's just a matter of fact, given my grades and test scores and how I've done in things. I think it largely went undiagnosed because I have ADHD and it does present problems in my life, but not bad enough where I was undiagnosed until I was 37 years old. I'm exploring ways to manage that a little bit better, like knowing that this problem is like a neurological one makes it feel a little bit different, that I can address it a little bit differently, pursue maybe medication management for it. And hopefully improve my life, which is already, I don't know, pretty good life. One thing I've done in the past, which has worked to some degree, is gamifying an activity. Putting up a time and seeing if I can get the activity done in that allotted time. Like cleaning out this row of flowers behind me before my drone battery dies. Now, this row of flowers I planted to bring pollinators to my garden. I put it right in the center of the 9 rows that I planted out, but going forward, I'm not gonna plant a row of flowers down the middle. I'm gonna have flowers on the sides and kind of just all over the place, so that way I could grow more vegetables in the space allotted. So I'm gonna pull these out now because they're starting to go to seed. I already have some popping up, so I may have some flowers as weeds next year, which isn't a bad thing. Hopefully I can dig them up and transplant them, but want to get them out now before winter fully sets in and put them in a place where birds can still find them and feed on the seed heads, just not in the garden. So much for a cool aerial time lapse. Apparently my SD card is full and it stopped promptly as I started pulling. But did not take me long at all to clear all the flowers. I do have to dig up some invasive dock that is in this row and pull some weeds, and then I will top with compost. Okay, apparently I just wasn't doing well with being a YouTuber yesterday. didn't charge my batteries, didn't make sure my SD cards had enough room, but it was a pretty productive day. And happy that I got a lot of work done then because the temperature has dropped. I'm not really dressed for outside activities right now, so I'm gonna go inside and enjoy the warmth of my home. Hopefully you somewhat enjoyed this video. I think you did if you made it this far to the very end of the video. Yeah, it was a different tone and pace, some of my other ones, but I liked it because I felt it was a little bit more natural. Just hanging out with me in the garden, outside, sharing some thoughts. Until next time, my name is Tyler Lloyd, and I wish you the very best. Later.